I don't think anybody's watching yet, but if you are, I'm just trying to set up my iPad, so in case any of you decide to come on, I can see what you're chatting. Ah, gotta turn the audio off. Having iPad issues today. It doesn't want to load. It's normal for Ustream, right? I don't know what I did wrong this time. It's trying to load. We'll give it a minute. Anyway, it looks like it's showing, this is showing up okay on Ustream. And the picture looks good. I think it's either recording on the camera or directly on Ustream. Honestly, I have no idea. But that's why we're going to do. I'll figure it out as we go along. Alright, so these are, I have so many of these. Pearl-Ex powders and those kind of like pigment powders. So I was watching some videos the other day and I realized that the Frugal Crafter on YouTube, if you don't know who she is, look her up. She's got a fabulous channel. Had a tutorial on turning Pearl-Ex powders and powdered eyeshadows and things into watercolor paints. And it was actually really easy. And I have had these pots of Pearl-Ex powders. Honestly, I've had them at least 6 years, probably longer than that. I purged some of them last year because I have so dang many of them and I was not using them. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with the rest of these? And then I saw her video and I was like, oh, genius. I'm very into the watercolors right now. It's not going to bug me if I have no more Pearl-Ex powders because I've turned them all into watercolors. That's totally okay with me. They'll at least get used at some point that way. If they stay as pigment powders, I'm probably never going to use them. So, and if you watch her video, she mixes hers like on a tile. I have no idea what my iPad is doing. Let's see, hang on, I don't want to listen to myself. And you know, the chat's not loading because the chat doesn't load, so I was hoping we could get that worked out. Let's see. Anyway, so I'm mixing them right in the pot, which is messy. As you see, I already split. Every time I do it, I spill some. I've done a couple of them over the garbage can. But I don't plan on trying to save any of the Pearl-Ex as a powder. So I'm going to just leave them in their pots. And I'm mixing them right in the pots. And I'm mixing them with gum arabic, which you have to go get at the art supply. Michael's does have it. I don't think Joann's does have it. It's not cheap. The one small bottle of Winsor Newton gum Arabic, I don't know where I did with the empty bottle, let's see, is $15. So it is pricey. I used a coupon. And it doesn't come in this bottle. I'll show you what the bottle it comes in. Let's see. It comes in this bottle. So it's $15. And this is 2.5 fluid ounces. And I wanted to get it into a squeezy bottle like this. So instead of searching around in various million cabinets at home, I stopped at the plastics store on the way home. We have a store called Tap Plastics. And all they sell is plastic things. Empty plastic bottles, trays. I got this there, which I'll talk about in a minute. And so I just went there. It's easy. I don't have to search all over Creation or buy something that I dump down the sink because I want the bottle, whatever. So the bottle, I think, was 45 cents, and the lid was like 35 cents. And I just put the gum Arabic into this bottle. And then I take my pots. I'll do this one. Now I'm going to save the lids. I'll tell you why I'm doing that in a minute. And then I just take the Pearl-Ex and a little bit of the gum Arabic. Just a little bit at a time. And I'm using a palette knife to just mix it up. I'm not going crazy with the mixing at first because I don't want the powder to fly all over the place. And then add a little more until you have kind of a paste. Now, I don't plan on putting the lids back on the pots. I'm going to leave them open. You have to anyway so that they dry out. And all of my watercolor palettes, I have lids for most of them, and I don't really cover them. They're in a protected space, so I'm not worried about dust and whatever getting in them. And it's easier for me to use them if there's no lid. So then you just keep mixing. I'm going to turn the viewfinder around so I can see what you guys are seeing. There we go. So you just keep mixing and scraping. I'm going to add a little bit more. I like it to be more of like a creamy paste. And you get something that's very similar to a twinkling H2O, which I like to paint with. I haven't lately, but I do like to paint with them. The only trick to doing it in the pot like this is really scraping the bottom and making sure you get all of it off the bottom. Add a little bit more. And Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter, does say in her video that the like coppery colors seem to take more gum Arabic than the other colors, and I'm really finding that she's right about that. It seemed like the darker colors in general seem to take more gum Arabic than the other ones. I don't know why that is. It must have something to do with the pigment. Okay, so then I just put that there. I'm going to grab a baby wipe, wipe this off, and do another one. First, we're going to see if we can get the iPad to work so I can see if the chat is working, because that would be handy. Got it working the other day. Let's just close that whole window and try again. I'm just testing to see if, oh yeah, you see me over on the computer. I see me. The chat thing is not working if I'm not logged in today, which sucks. Let's see if I go to the Ustream app, if it's any different. Helps if I know how to spell my own name. Seems like it's working in the Ustream app. But of course I thought after I started mixing this that I might need to turn the sound off on my iPad. Oops. There we go. See what I mean about being messy? So this pot was almost full, completely full. I didn't ever use, evidently didn't use this color very much. I did one of these over the garbage can before I turned on Ustream because it was just so messy. I'm going to grab a dirty baby wipe here. I just keep mixing that gum arabic in. I'm glad I bought 2 bottles of gum arabic because I have so much of this Pearl-Ex powder. You have to leave them open and uncapped and let them dry out for a while. You know, it might take a day or two. What I do is I just fix up the palette like this, and that's another reason why I never cover them, and I stick them. I have a protected spot underneath my work table where my palettes live when I'm not painting with them. I leave the lids off and I just carefully stick them down there up on their shelf, and they just sit there and they're protected from dust and whatever, and they can just dry out so they don't get moldy. Although I had more problem with things getting moldy and gross out in the garage where I had no heat and air conditioning than I do in the house now that my studio's in the house. Okay. Ooh, 3 viewers, but no comments. If you guys are watching and you can just at least say hi in the chat or something so I know that it's working. That would be great. So I'm going to keep turning Pearl-Ex powders into paints, but you just put them out somewhere, like I said, and you let them dry out. And for those of you who are just tuning in, this is Pearl-Ex powder with gum arabic in it. That turns it into a watercolor, similar to twinkling H2Os. And I've gotten some of them where I probably put a little too much gum arabic, like this one, so it's probably going to take longer to dry out, if it does, but that's okay. So when I was out this morning at the plastics store buying this, looking for this bottle to put the gum arabic in, we have a store called Tap Plastics. I found the little bottle. The little bottle was 45 cents and the little lid was 35 cents. I bought a couple of them because these are handy little bottles. And when I was there, I found this. I always like to look around and see what new things they have. You know, sometimes it's handy to just buy something than to have to wait to repurpose something. I like repurposing things, but I don't have necessarily lots of patience. And those of you who know me know that. Hey, Pet Pamperer. Oh, I forgot. I can't log in. I can't say. So, Pet Pamperer, hi. It looks like there's 3 other people at least on watching besides you. So, anyway, not a lot. This is very impromptu. I didn't really announce it to anybody, and I only have 20 followers to begin with, so... so anyway, when I was at the plastic store at Tap Plastics, I found this round piece of plastic. They had this whole section of new things for like cake stands and that kind of thing. So I got this round piece of plastic, and it didn't cost very much. This whole thing cost like 20 bucks. Which is expensive for what I'm going to use it for if you're used to getting them at like Michael's. But for the other one I have, it's not so much. Okay, so this blue stuff is just a protective paper, so I just peeled it off. It's clear acrylic plastic. And the other thing I got was this turntable thing with ball bearings in it. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take some of this. This is industrial strength sticky back Velcro. So I'm going to cut a couple pieces in half. I'm going to stick one side to the turntable and peel off the other side. I'm going to put them in a square. Hey, Lugene. I'm actually kind of surprised that anybody's watching because, like I said, I didn't plan this. But I think this is, I'm glad you guys are watching, and I'm hopefully recording, and I will try to get it posted to YouTube. I don't exactly know how to do that, but I'll work on it. Because this is a really great idea, I think. Okay. So I'm going to get this last piece off of here. There we go. Then I'm going to stick this to the top. I'm going to try to center it. It has these holes. Oops. You see that hole? Right there. So they're in the center. There we go. So they're in the center. So I'm going to try to line those up with the corners where there's no Velcro. And stick it down. There we go. So then if I ever want to, and I need to clean it, I can take this off from that and move it around, clean it, replace the top, or maybe the Lazy Susan part breaks, I can replace that. But when I'm using it, it's all connected. It's not going to slide around. I love that. So then what I can do is I can take all my little pots of homemade twinkling H2Os and my store-bought twinkling H2Os, and I did make this color card to fit this box, but so I'm going to have to cut it up and do something different for the center of here. But I can make myself a homemade palette similar to my big palette that you all have been asking about. This one. I love this palette. This palette is by Robax Engineering. You can Google their name, Robax, and they manufacture plastic things. And they have a whole page of just artist palettes. I love this one. I think it's the 15-inch 64 well, I think. It's the one with the, I have the smaller 15-inch with less wells in it, and then I have this one. I think one's 48 and one's 64, something like that. I love this palette, and it turns. I love it, and it's gotten me to use my watercolors so much more than I was, because they're out, they're handy, they're in this fabulous palette. It's great. I can grab the whole thing. I don't have to dig through a drawer. I love it. I love the idea of it. It's not what you'd call inexpensive, and although they do have options, I of course had to have the big one. I would love to be able to afford a big one, another one like this for the twinkling H2Os, but number one, I'd have to figure out how to unpot them, which is difficult and messy. They don't make one that I can just dump the pots in. And I can't really afford it. If I'm going to spend the money, which I am at some point, to buy another one, a Robax palette, which I am going to at some point, it's going to be one that they're working on for me right now that will fit my Inktense blocks. So I have them, I'm working with them to make one for my Inktense blocks. So I can just lay the blocks in the palette like this one, and I can have all my Inktense blocks here. I hate the tin. The tin makes me crazy. But having them in something like this would be fabulous. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. And when that happens, I will, of course, share with you guys and let you know. But I would love one of these for my Twinkling H2Os, but I just couldn't figure out how to make it work and make it work in a budget. But when I was at Tap Plastics today, I found these. So my idea is I have tons of this sticky back Velcro. Hey, Carol. So this is my idea. I have this sticky back Velcro strips. I can cut this. I have a bunch of them. I cut it into squares. These little things are going to make me crazy. Little pieces of paper. I'm going to take a little square and I'm going to stick it and I can put a whole bunch all the way around. I can do 2 rows. Clever, huh? I thought it was just very clever. So let's do that. The only thing is with these, I gotta make sure I know which one is which. Periwinkle. So I think when I put them on here, I want to put them on here and stick a label. Otherwise, I'm going to forget. You guys know I will. If I can't even find the Valentine that was hanging in front of my face, I'm going to forget which color is which. But I've got my Brother P-Touch, which is what I use to do all my labels. And I can just print a little label. This might take me all day today and tomorrow to set this up completely because I'll do one pot and Velcro it down and then print a label and then do another pot. It's not going to be a fast process. But I can do them all something like that with a label. I'll hold it up to the camera. And we'll have all of them lined up around. And they'll all be labeled. Look at how pretty that looks in their little pots. And I can do 2 deep. Look at that. It's all sparkly goodness. Look how pretty. The more colors you get on there. And I'm thinking I could do some kind of watercolor round circle in the middle, like I did for the big palettes. I can make one that has all the different colors on it. And I'll just like cut these or punch these out from this card that I did before. And I'll make new ones for the for the homemade Twinkling H2Os. Now I have one more idea for this. I mean, look at that. Even if you leave a space for a label. Oh, that's so pretty already. Okay, so then if you have a bunch of these Pearl X powders and you get yourself some gum arabic and you want to try making homemade watercolors and just playing, and don't be afraid to play. I have so many people that say, you know, I'm afraid of watercolors. I've never used them before. Well, don't let that stop you. Just play. What's the worst that could happen? But if you don't want to, like, make the whole pot into watercolor, because maybe you use them for embossing, or you want to use them to mix with acrylic medium and make some acrylic paint. That's not... one of the reasons I've never used up all of my Pearl-Ex powders is that's never what I've used them for. So this is a perfect solution for me. It isn't necessarily for you. You could just take a little bit of your Pearl-Ex and mix it on something like this is actually a piece of my cutting mat. I have to trim it to fit because when I buy them, they're a little bit too wide. You can see a little bit of it peeking out right here. So I have to trim a few inches off the back side, and I save it and cut it up into these squares, and I use them for mixing paint and stuff on. So I use this to mix a little bit of it on with the gum arabic if you only want to make a little bit of watercolor paint out of your Pearl-Ex powders. And then to put them in, I thought this was genius again, because I was going to do this at first. This is, I like to drink unsweetened tea. I don't remember the brand name, but it comes in a square bottle. Tea Java, maybe? I don't remember, but it comes in a square bottle with these black lids. I've been saving them because I thought I could do something with them. I've tried to throw them away like 3 times, and every time I stop myself and I save them, and they're still in my studio, because I keep thinking, no, I'm going to have something I can do with those at some point. Well, why couldn't you turn these into little watercolor paint palettes? You could fill the whole lid up with your watercolor paint that you mix up out of your Pearl-Ex powders, and then you could Velcro these down to your homemade palette. Genius, right? I thought it was just brilliant. So in that regard, as I'm making my watercolor paints, I'm actually saving the lids from the Pearl-Ex powders, because I know myself, at some point I'll want more lids because I'll be making more paints out of something, and so I'll want these lids. So yeah, we're going to save those. And I have some powdered eyeshadows and things here in this box. I won't be making all of these up today, but I will be making some of them. And some of these, when I make them up, like these jars, these are from the dollar store, and the Frugal Crafter talks about these in her video. There's a lot of powder in here, and they make a really nice paint, but there's a lot in here, so there's no way on the planet I would mix up the whole thing and make paint out of it. It's too much. You could, this is a little like cocktail spoon that I use to scoop out the powders or glitter or whatever. So let's make some more paint. This is so, and on these, the other advantage to these Pearl-Ex powders and keeping them in the pot is I don't have to try to remember what the name is, because it is on here. This is Duo Red Blue. So when I go to print my labels, I know. And thank you. I do try to come up with good recycling ideas. I know I spend too much money on arts and crafts, but I try to spend it on stuff that matters. So I'll show this again. So this is, what color is this? This is Brilliant Gold. So I'm going to put like about a half a teaspoon of gum arabic in here. And mix it slowly. It'll start to clump in the middle. Sort of reminds me of when you're mixing dough, like bread dough. At some point, all the ingredients start to pull together in the middle and form your dough ball, and that's when you know you need to pull it out of the mixer and knead it by hand. If you make bread. I do make bread. I actually made more bread before I hurt my shoulder than I have lately, but I need to make some biscotti and some bread this week. Ooh, we have 4 viewers. Woohoo! Someday I'll be like Patty and have, you know, a whole bunch. It's the middle of the day. I didn't expect, actually, anybody to be on. So you just keep mixing it until it, you know, I like it pasty, but I don't like it too stiff. So I want to have it be kind of creamy, mixed well. I don't want it to be lumpy. Scrape all that goodness out of there. So this may take me all week to get this palette done, but I'm so excited to have it done. I'm so glad I went to the plastics store today. So if you don't have a TAC Plastics near you, if you've never heard of that before, I'm sure you probably have a store like it that just sells plastic stuff. Sheets of acrylic, things made out of plastic. It kind of smells really bad because it smells like acrylic and stuff, and it makes me cough and wheeze a little bit, but I usually save up for trips there for stuff I really need. I try to get in and out quickly. So that was the first thing I wanted to share with you guys. So I'll be working on that continually. And isn't that just pretty? I mean, how do you just not like that? I mean, it's gonna just be so pretty when it's done. And I may end up, like, I could see me filling up the whole palette with little pots and having the color card for the palette like something that sits on top that's loose. I could see me doing that. I'm going to try not to do that. I am also going to try, when I set the palette up, to put all the yellows and golds together and oranges and do it like a color wheel and arrange everything like a color wheel, because that will make more sense. And that's how I have my other ones set up, rather than keeping the twinkling homemade and store-bought twinkling H2O separate. I would rather have them grouped by color. I think that would be better. So let's close up the baby wipes, move this. And let's do some watercolor doodles. My desk is a mess. You know, lately it's just always a mess. So here's some ones I did the other day. Yesterday. I did them a couple days ago, and I did some more yesterday. So when I did the first group, which are these, I think, I did these with traditional watercolors, and you can use, Carol, you can use Perfect Pearls or Pearl-Ex. I have some of both in my bin, and I also have some of the powdered eyeshadows from the dollar store, which the Frugal Crafter talks about in her video. These, they're $1, and they look just like Perfect Pearls or Pearl-Ex powder. And you just mix it with gum arabic. I unpotted my gum arabic into this bottle with a squeezy top. Look in Michael's. Buy the watercolor paints. They're going to have Winsor Newton gum arabic, which is in a bottle like this. And this little bottle is like $15 and change. So make sure you use a coupon, because it is not cheap. I bought 2 of them because I have a lot of Perfect Pearls and Pearl-Ex powders and that sort of thing. I have this whole box. And I'm not using them. I've had the box for like 6 years, and I am not going to use them unless I make them into watercolors. Honestly, that's the only way this box is going to get used. So I bought 2 of these, and that may even not be enough. I probably won't turn all of them into watercolor at once. I'll probably do some and then wait and do the rest later. I will probably put the ones that I don't turn into watercolor right away in my drawer with my spare watercolor tubes, along with the extra gum arabic, because then I know where it's at and I hopefully won't lose it, because any of you who have been watching me for a while know that I have memory issues now since I got sick and hurt at work. And I forget, I lose things all the time. My family now thinks it's hilarious, but But yeah, I never used gum arabic with my watercolors. I never had a need to, but I love the idea of using it with pigment powders you already have or inexpensive ones that you get to make your own watercolors and even custom colors. You know, if you've got a bunch of these powders, you know, you can even mix them together. Like I have a bunch of gold colors. I'm wondering if I can take like, you know, what would happen if I took these two and mixed them together. I think that would be really pretty. So, you know, you could make yourself some custom colors and mix some things together. I have this pretty minty green color. That is going to be pretty paint. So, but when I did these watercolor doodles, I used my regular traditional watercolors on them, and I love the way they turned out. But if you use them in your art journal pages and you get them full of wet medium, then the watercolor paint's going to reactivate and run. If you work from a color copy, then that's not an issue, or if you're just really careful. But I thought, I have this whole box of Inktense pencils, which I mean, not pencils, blocks, which I don't use because I hate the tin. The tin makes me crazy. Okay, everything makes me crazy, but the tin really just drives me up the wall. I don't like it. But I love the blocks, and the blocks have some great vibrant color, and when they dry, they're permanent. Woohoo! So I did this second batch yesterday with them. The pen I've been using is, somebody finally asked me about the pen. This is by Pentel. It's a gel roller for fabric pen. It's permanent when dry and smudge proof. I love this pen for doing this kind of thing. It does not have a super fine point. It's kind of bold. But I'm okay with that, especially for these. And they have them at Hobby Lobby. They also have them at Amazon. I haven't really seen them anywhere else, but to be honest, I haven't really looked carefully. I haven't looked at Michael's. I have trouble walking. Okay. Holy cow, confession time. Okay, since I got sick 2 years ago at work and developed asthma, I got hurt at work and developed asthma. I have trouble walking around stores. Why? At Christmas time, it's because of the cinnamon scented pine cones and things like that. And right now, even at my Michael's store, it's because of the potpourri, sachets, and all of the scented candles. There are whole sections of the store, like I can't even walk on that side of the store because I start coughing and wheezing. And so the fabric department is like kind of over that way. So I kind of I don't walk around the store too much unless I really need something or I'm helping a customer. And then I'm like, I have a pocket full of cough drops when I do. So I haven't really looked at Michael's for the pen. I know they have it at Hobby Lobby, and I know they have it at Amazon. And Amazon, you can order them like in a box of, I just ordered a box that had 12 in it, I think. If you order them in the multiple boxes of multiple pens, they're a little cheaper. If you can buy just one, it's like $3 though. They do not have them at Jet Pens, which you all know is my favorite place to buy pens. Thanks, Shannon Green. I'm a Jet Pen addict. So, but I love this pen for doing this. It works really well. I also got asked, you know, how do you draw those without making any mistakes? I make mistakes. You know, these are old book pages. I make a mistake. I drew a drawing I don't like. I just throw it away and I keep drawing until I get one I like. So I love my Inktense blocks because there's so many colors and it's permanent when it's dry, but these flimsy plastic trays just drive me crazy. Make sure you guys can see me and I'm not out of frame. So what to draw? Let's see. How about some more flowers? I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I've been, oops, let's see, where am I? I've been sneaking in inspiring words in some of the doodles. This leaf took me 3 times to get a leaf that I liked. The birds are easier. The name of the pen is, it's a Pentel. It's called a gel roller for fabric. I can't blame my shaky hands on too much coffee today because I didn't get to finish all my coffee because I spilled it. I took an allergy medicine though. Doesn't help. I like this one. This is a really pretty one. Let's do some flowers. I want them to be sketchy, so I always do multiple lines, do some, you know, squiggly marks. You're welcome. Because it's a gel pen, when I do this, whether I'm using it on these book pages or I'm using it in my watercolor sketch journal, I either give it a minute to dry or I dry it a little bit with my heat gun. And these pages are from a book I took apart long time ago and made the cover into a journal. This is from Sense and Sensibility, I think. I don't know. Yeah, Jane Austen. Okay, let's see. Now I'm put on the spot. Now I don't know what to draw. That happens. I have to keep an eye on the time because I have to teach a class at Michael's this afternoon. You know, I want to do a dandelion, but I got to practice that because every time I try to draw one, it comes out funky. I don't know. Let's do another bird. Let's do a little face. I wanted to do that the other day and I forgot. Don't be afraid to experiment with drawing faces and taking Jane Davenport's advice, and don't always, in fact, don't use graphite. You know, graphite frustrates me when I do faces, and maybe that's because I have expectations of what should happen with the graphite. I seem to be more relaxed if you give me like a permanent marker or charcoal or paint. I'm more relaxed about what's going on with the face. I don't know. The graphite frustrates me. That's why you guys have seen so much practice from me lately. I'm trying to get a handle on that. You asked me to draw a graphite landscape or a graphite seascape or something like that, I'm good with that. But, you know, drawing a graphite face, not so much. Girls have high arched brows. If you're going to do a boy, then you want the brows to be lower to the eye. The eye is a little bit smaller and the face should be more angular and less round. I also have trouble with 3/4 profile faces. I don't know why that is. I'm still practicing. It's something that's been always an issue. She's cute. Well, she'd be a cute embellishment to any page. I'm going to put a hint of an earlobe in there. Yep. Okay, next. Let's see. Flowers, birds, girls. Let's see. Flowers, sun, hearts, more flowers. Seems like I like to draw flowers and feathers. Leaves. Bugs. Arrows. I don't know. Let's leave that one for now and let's go back to the first one because it should be dry now. Let's do some coloring. We'll start with this one. I like to use my water brush a lot because it's handy. And I can lay these color cards right on top of my trays of Inktense blocks, and then I know which sticks are which color because you can't really tell from the stick what color you're going to get. I think we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Let's do a turquoisey greeny blue on this one. At least to start. If I want more water on there, then I just give it a little squeeze. And that forces it to release some more water. And the way I watercolor is not about perfection in the least slightest little bit. It's about playing with the color and letting it go where it wants. You can have a little bit of a control by only getting a certain area like pre-wet, or not getting it pre-wet at all and just putting a little color right there like I did there. I think I'm going to stick with the blues. I'm also like to just put a little extra color in some spots. Make it darker. So you have I'm using the same color, but then you have part that's light and part that's dark. It gives it interest. Oh, thanks. You know, girls are easy because as a mixed media artist, we all want to do girls, so we do lots of girls. The boys are hard. And I can do a pretty good profile face. Of course, a front-facing face. Peta Thompson told me recently, and she's not wrong, that my style of drawing a face, no matter what lessons I take from who, they all have the same look about them, and it's a very anime style. And she's not wrong. She's right, actually. I guess I like a certain kind of face. But we all draw girls. I have drawn boys in the past. Not a lot of them, but I have drawn them. I'm a little out of practice. And we have some things coming up in Journaling Crazy Island Style that I think we're going to do boy faces. So I have to practice because I'm the only one who's done a boy face at all. So we're all working on it. I'm out of practice. So I'm using a light like a lime green and then a little bit slightly darker green. I like that. And if I was in a really hurry, I would, you know, dry it with a heat gun, but I really like the way they turn out. Let's do our little bird. You know, I keep doing my birds in blue. Maybe we should do a purple bird. Might be interesting. Or a red bird. I don't like the idea of doing him in red. Unless we use this red over here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's this one. Let's try this color. Yeah, boy faces are, you know, we don't do them too much. I have done them. But, you know, most of the time we're making pretty journal pages and or expressing, you know, how we're feeling or something like that. Most of us are girls, so we draw girl faces. But I have drawn portraits of family members and things before, including my dad. And, you know, they're always sort of abstract, you know, expressive paintings. The one I did of PETA is probably the closest you'll ever get me to do a realistic painting. If you really want realistic, you need to go to my sister's artwork. She's a member of Crazy Island Family. In case you all didn't know, Karen Striley is my sister. She's about a year younger than I am. And we grew up both doing art together, and she's always been the one that's more of a realist artist, and I've always been the one that's more of an abstract artist. So there you have it. Let's pick this color. I think this little bird's going to be cute. He's like this reddish brown and orange. I'm liking these colors, which is unusual for me because I don't normally like these colors. Now you could leave him just like that, and that would be cute. Let's see. Whoops. But I'm thinking I'm not done with him yet. He needs more. Maybe yellow. I think he needs some yellow. Not quite lemon. I'm going to go with the one that's a little darker. Now for years I did just use all of my same brushes for acrylic, watercolor, whatever. I didn't have separate brushes. It really is a good idea to have separate brushes, and I do now. Just because your acrylic mediums and stuff kind of gum up your brushes, and then it's hard to watercolor with them. He's going to be cute. Oops. It's a cute little bird. Ah, see, I have a thing about blue, though. I'm still wanting to put a little bit of blue on him. Maybe if we do like a blue-green. Just a little bit. I try not to overthink those instincts when I have that impulse to add something to a painting. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it's a big mistake. but I try to listen to it anyway. Because like I have been saying, what's the worst that could happen? The blue is turning a little bit green, but you know what? I like it. He is one cute little birdie. Yeah. Let's do her. What color? What color? You know what? I want to give her purple eyes. Let's do that. Can zoom in a little bit, I think. Let's see. Yep. There we go. Purple eyes. I like the purple eyes. All right, what else? Let's give her some lips. Let's do this red that's near the violet tones. And then I'm going to wipe my brush off and just spread out the pigment that's on there. And that will spread out a little bit of the color to the bottom lip, but keep it a lighter shade so that it looks like it's got some shading in there without me having to try very hard. And then flesh color. I think we're going to need to mix a couple of colors together. I'm going to need my little plastic. So I'm going to mix together some of this, I think it's like a Naples yellow, which is like a kind of a brownish yellow. And I'm going to pull in a little bit of pink. And then I'm going to pull in, there we go. So we have a peachy color, and then I'm going to pull in a little bit of blue, just a little bit. The blue will brown it up a little bit. There we go. Because I don't want a dark flesh tone, because we're going to use the book text as our basic flesh tone, but I'm going to just put this like, see, I like that. That's a good color. I'll probably never be able to mix it again. You'll have some areas that'll look darker than others. It's not necessarily because you have too much paint there. It's the paper is getting really wet. I like that a lot. I'm going to go back over. Oh, let's not forget her ears. Now I'm going to take some of the pink, just a little bit. Give her some rosy cheeks. If you're going to try this, be really careful about how wet you get the paper and how much scrubbing you do. We're reloading. I don't know if you guys can see me. No, I guess you can. Be careful about how much reloading and scrubbing you do on book paper, because it's really not intended to watercolor. So you have to be careful. What color to make her hair? You know, I'm thinking I want to make it purple. I have this thing about purple lately. What is with that? I don't know, but I have this thing about purple. So yeah, be careful when you're doing watercoloring on like old papers, like this old book text, that you don't do too much scrubbing or get it too wet, because it's not going to really be able to handle it very well, and it's probably going to start pilling. I try to be quick. Also, don't be one of those artists where you feel like you have to work on your work this way. You know what? If it's easier for you to get to a spot to color it in by turning the work around, turn it around. I won't tell anybody that you did that. She's cute. She's going to be a really cute journal page on something. Totally cute. So that's how I've been doing the watercolor journals. I mean, the watercolor embellishments. You knew what I meant, right? And you don't also have to feel like you have to have like Inktense blocks or, let's zoom back out again, Inktense blocks or fancy watercolors or the big watercolor palette or twinkling H2Os or anything else to start watercoloring. My first watercolor set was a like $5 set of 12 colors. In fact, I have one handy. Hang on. Let's see, where'd it go? There it is. This is one that I have that lives in my travel art journal bag. I actually forgot it was in there, and I made that other palette with the Daniel Smith colors in it, but that's okay. This is a Art Alternatives watercolor set. I think I got it from Aaron Brothers with a coupon. I think it was like $6 before the coupon. I don't think it was much more than that. It has, I'm sorry, 18 colors in it. This one actually hasn't been used as much as my other one, which is out in the garage. Evidently, I really like this like yellow ochre color because in the other one, that yellow ochre color is completely gone. And I know I used that color a lot when I first started watercoloring for my backgrounds. I liked using that. But you don't have to have an expensive set of watercolors to start playing with them. You can just get something like this. It works just fine. And then if you decide you really like it, then get something else. I'm glad you like the purple. I like the purple. Did them in the media book, but like, yeah, I have them in my reference book. I have swatches of the Inktense colors, and that's great for when I'm out shopping. You know, I know what colors I have, and even sometimes when I'm working with the blocks. But when I'm just wanting to just do like these doodles, having this chart like this right on the tray where I can line up the color with the block is much more handy for actually painting. And that's why I've started making these kind of charts for all of my watercolor trays or palettes. And I made the round ones for the round palettes, and I will be doing one for the homemade palette too. I am not by any stretch of the imagination a patient person. I wasn't before I got hurt. I'm certainly not now. And I do not necessarily always have the patience to go dig out my mixed media reference book, although it is not far away. I'll tell you that right now. But sometimes I want to just, you know, get my paint palette out and just start painting. I don't want to get the book out. I don't want to do anything else. So having these right here, totally handy for me. The mixed media reference book, though, is great when I'm out shopping and, you know, I want to replace a color or a block, or I want to add colors to my collection, like for the Daniel Smith. I take the book with me to the store, so I'm not buying something I already have. And it's also a great place to experiment when I, you know, don't remember, you know, what do these Inktense ones look like when you activate them with matte medium instead of water, or gloss medium instead of water, or something like that. I've done all those experiments in that book, and that's handy for that. But these, yeah, this is great. Now, if I can get Robax, you know, once Robert at Robax Engineering finishes working the bugs out of the Inktense palette he's working on for me for these Inktense blocks, I will be sharing that. I am over the moon and excited about it. He's reworking it. He's figuring out how to get all 72 blocks on there. Right now, you can only get 64, so he's working on it. And I will be buying one, and I'm saving sort of my palette money for buying that one because it won't be cheap, but it'll be totally worth it to have it for these. I can't wait. Yeah, it's great for buying things. I love it for that. It's fabulous for that. Because, you know, when I first started doing the reference book, I realized I had 2, 3, and 4 of some things because I, you know, lose what I have. I can't find what I have. And I didn't have an inventory with me when I would go to the store. And so I would just keep, you know, buying, you know, Payne's Gray. I have lots of Payne's Gray. Lots of yellow acrylic paint, you know, all in the same color and sometimes in the same brand. So that's, you know, kind of a waste of money. I want to put a word on her. So I like to hide the words in the doodle somewhere. And just put them like right there in her neck. Not on all of them, but on quite a few of them, there's a word. Oh, we have 5 viewers. If you can join the chat and ask me questions. I'm just here playing with my watercolors, and I've been turning some of my old Pearl-Ex powders and other pigment powders into homemade watercolor paint, using the hints and tips from the Frugal Crafter on YouTube. If you don't know who she is, you really should go find her and subscribe. She does a lot of paper crafting videos, which are great, but she has a lot of homemade crafting and art supply recipes and tips for how to do things less expensively. I love her. She's fabulous. And she's a fine artist in her own right, a real good one. So she does tutorials on that too. Now I'm stuck. What else to doodle? I don't know. I seem to do a lot of flowers, don't I? I like to doodle flowers. I don't know, the face came out real cute though. Maybe I should do another one of them. I like this color of purple. It's like an aubergine. If you have Neocolor crayons, they have one that's called aubergine. That's this dark grape, purpley, blue, violet color. It's just fabulous. It's my favorite color. And I've been using it a lot lately in everything I do. I even went out and bought some Liquitex paint that was in the same color because it was that color. I'll show you. Let's see. It is Quinacridone Blue Violet by Liquitex, and it's that same dark purpley color. Let's see. I love it. It's my favorite color of acrylic paint right now, next to Payne's Gray. How about another feather? Sure, I can do another feather. So the feathers, actually, I like doing feathers, so I always start with the center stem. I do kind of a... Oh, let's zoom in so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so I always start with like a little bit of a, like a parenthesis. And then... that's like the center spine, right? And once I get that shape that I like, the basic shape, then I do some sketchy lines. Because, you know, I'm all about the sketchy lines. Instead of trying to drive yourself crazy by being perfect, just plan on not being perfect and making that work for you. Because, you know, if you're like me, trying to be perfect and then not doing it perfectly every single time is going to drive you crazy. So just don't even go there. And yes, that would be one of the reasons why I don't do realist art, because like if I can't like do it so it looks like a photograph, it's not going to happen. So then I just start from the center and I just do lines going straight out. I want them to be going in the same general direction, but if they cross over each other a little bit, that's okay. And I try to have them be shorter here, a little bit fatter in the middle, and then taper down again to shorter at the bottom. Otherwise, if you don't shape them a little bit, it looks like a pine tree branch. So... And then at the bottom, I try to have some that kind of go out like the wrong way. And if I don't quite get the shape right, then that's okay. I go back over and add a few more. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I think I'm going to try to go live again later this week. I will try to give you guys a couple of days notice. And we will maybe be doing Negativity Smackdown Live. So then you have something that looks like that. It's feather-like. So then I like to put little like doodles in the what do you call them? Hairs of the feather. I don't know what they're called. I take that back. I do know what they're called. I can't think of it right now. So like on these, I put like little dots and circles, which are easy. Dots and circles are easy. So I do some solid dots. You could do all solid dots. And I like to do things in groups of 3. 3 is interesting and keeps the viewer interested in what you're doing. So like here I'll do 1 here, but then I'll do 2 solid ones next to it. So that's still a group of 3. Turn it around so I don't stick my hand in the wet gel ink while it's drying. Because that's totally something I'd do. You just keep doing that until you get something that you're happy with. Yeah. So in this case, let's grab the heat gun. If I can get it without knocking everything on my table on the floor. Because seriously, my table's very messy. This might get loud, so I apologize in advance. So even though this gel ink is permanent, you do want to dry it before you touch it with the watercolors, because it's going to just get really gross and messy and smeary if you don't. Okay, let's see. Let's start with blue. Because, you know, I like me some turquoise blue. Y'all knew that, though. Now, this is one of those instances where I'm squeezing the water brush as I'm painting so that the paint color kind of puddles. And then if I want the next color to sort of run, you know, willy-nilly where it may, then I'll get the rest of the feather wet. And the watercolor will go first to the wet spots, to the water. It'll wick itself into the water. Let's try this color. This is a little bit of like a dusty rose color. Dusty rose. I called it dusty rose. That kind of dates me, doesn't it? It's like a 1980s term, isn't it? Oops. Ooh, we're up to 6 viewers. Woohoo! If you have a question for me and you're watching right now live, I'm going to be on live until about 2 o'clock. And if you have questions, put them into the chat. Or if you're like me and you can't get the chat to work, and you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you can Facebook message me. And I'll answer them on the air. See, I like that dusty rose color, but that's too much, so we're going to put some purple in there. Back to the purple. The one thing I don't do when I'm watercoloring is freak out too much if I get the wrong color in the wrong space. Just like when I'm doing any other painting, I just consider it part of the background texture and interest in the finished piece. And I try to think, what other colors can I put on there that are going to blend with that color to be something more like what I want? Like, I didn't mind the rose, but it was a little bit too pink. And I know if I put the purple on there, it's going to lighten up the purple. You also can do this. And when you put too much color somewhere and dab it off with a damp paper towel, and that's going to remove some of the color. Whoops, where am I? It's going to remove just a little bit of the color and lighten things up. Also remember that as this dries, it's going to be a little bit lighter. This is a little bit darker blue. See, my feathers always end up blue and purple, no matter what I think I'm going to do. And then, before I put any more on there, I would dry it. Really loud, but the heat embossing gun dries it really fast. Now with the Inktense paints, it doesn't get as light when it dries as with regular watercolor, so, but I like that about it. But like I said, when you do these little doodles with the Inktense, you can, you know, use all kind of matte mediums or gel mediums and to glue it to a page, and it's not going to run. I would definitely, with these, not cut them out. I would tear them out, because I think the torn edge on these would add an extra pop to the watercolor doodle on your finished page that you would really like. I know I would really like. The other thing I'm going to do before I cut any of these apart is I am going to scan them and turn them into digital images so that I can reprint them whenever I want. If I have a particular one like this one that I really like, I have the color copy of it, And that way, if I use the original on something and I don't have it anymore, I still have the copy. Now, sometimes when I do that, I save the original and I put the original away in one of my portfolio books and I only use the copies. I don't know that that's what will happen with these. I do know I will be copying them. You could also take them to your local art supply store. Not art supply. I have a scanner, so I'm going to scan them, and then I will put the scanned images on a flash drive, and then I'll take it to the copy store, the office supply, and I'll have them make color copies of whatever's on the flash drive. If you don't have that capability, you don't have to. Just take the original over to your local copy center and make a color copy or a few color copies of it. In that case, though, if you use the original, then when the color copies are gone, the whole thing is gone. You don't have any more. You really don't get as clear of an image making a color copy from a color copy as you do a color copy from an original. I don't know why that is. It just, I have no idea. Yeah, when you do the feathers, if you give them a little bit of a curve, then it looks more like a feather and less like a pine tree branch. If you don't give it that little bit of a curve, then it looks a lot like a pine tree branch. Especially when I put the little doodly circles in there because they kind of look like seeds. So, and I never do them in like shades of green or brown because then I don't want it to look like a pine tree branch. So, I like this little sun that I did. Ooh, 7 viewers, yay! If you guys are watching, you can, I'm going to be on until 2 o'clock, and if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll answer them online. I'm playing here with watercolors today, and I am hopefully recording it, and the whole thing will be up on YouTube later. I showed earlier some ideas I got from the Frugal Crafter on how to make your own homemade Twinkling H2Os, and a really great idea for a Twinkling H2O palette on a budget. A new one, not the other one. A new and improved. So cool. Wait till you guys see. But anyway, yeah, so when you do these, I would definitely recommend, doing a stack of them and having them and taking your favorite ones out of the stack and maybe making the copies of those or digital files of those and setting the original aside and only working with a copy. That way you always have the capability of making it again. Making copies of it again, sorry. I did say I had allergy medicine this morning, didn't I? I like the dragonfly. He's one of my favorites. And dragonflies are one of the first doodles I ever did when I started doing art and playing with watercolor paints. The bumblebees, he's cute. He's not the way I thought he would be when I first did the bumblebee. He's cute though. I don't think bumblebees really have 2 sets of wings, but I like him. Just basic shapes. You don't have to get crazy with it if you don't think you know how to draw. Just do hearts and arrows and circles and squares and, you know, flowers. And they don't have to be realistic flowers. These certainly aren't. They could be, you know, just crazy abstract flowers. And, you know, I have stacks of these book pages, so if I just do one small little design in the center and I don't use the rest of the page, I'm not worried about it because I got stacks of this book paper. Here's a face that we did earlier, for those of you who are just joining us. We lost somebody. So yeah. Let's do another one. The other pen I sometimes use when I'm doing this, if I want a finer point, is the Pilot Multi-Ball. Usually I use the Pilot Multi-Ball when I'm working in my watercolor sketchbook though. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. It's a Pilot Multi-Ball. It's waterproof when it dries. And I get these at Jet Pens. Cool. I'm glad you did one. I'm going to just do some circles. Sketchy circles with a squiggly mark. Okay, and then in each one of the circles, I'm going to write in positive affirmation word. That's it. So I wrote breathe, inspire, and create. Because I don't know about you guys, but that's something I need to remember to do, is just to relax and take a breath. Just breathe. Not to get all worked up about stuff. Oh, we got our 7th viewer, came back again. You went away and then you came back. Glad you're back. This is a kind of a violet, purpley. Of course it's purple, you know. I like my purples. I could probably tell you exactly what color it is. Let's see. I don't have my reading glasses on, but let's see if I can read it. Number, it looks like 710. Derwent, number 710. It looks like that's what it says. But I don't have my reading glasses on, so no guarantees on that score. So I'm using just the same color, and I'm just adding a little bit more of it to darken it up, and I'm also pulling it down so that I don't have so much of a straight line. And then I'm going to go into a darker color. Yeah, you know, Catherine, these water brushes, this is the Pentel water brush, which is honestly my favorite water brush. They all work the same, but there's something about this handle that's really comfortable in my hand. I really like. They do sell these at jetpens.com, and that's where I get them. No place is super cheap. The only other thing I could suggest is to go to your local Michael's or Joann's, and they usually have them, not always in the art supplies. Sometimes they'll have them, like, you know, because, you know, Ranger sells a water brush, and so they'll be in the scrapbooking department. Use a coupon. But yeah, I have quite a few of them. And I'm always looking, you know, in the clearance aisle when, you know, they put, you know, Michael's puts things on clearance a couple times a year. They put a lot of stuff on clearance. And I'm always looking for watercolor paint brushes and things like that. I'm really hard on my brushes, so I do a lot of things you really shouldn't do with your brushes. One of them being, I'll show you guys. I'll be so embarrassed now. So this is my dirty brush jar. These are all the acrylic brushes, and you shouldn't really leave them, and I have a couple palette knives in here too, but you shouldn't really leave them in here for very long, unless you're me. I leave them in here for sometimes a week, and then I clean them, and that's really hard on your brushes, because if any of you who've been painting for a while know that if you get the brush wet above the ferrule, this metal part of the brush, then it loosens up the glue that holds your wooden handle in, and your brush at some point is going to fall apart. You can fix it by using a waterproof epoxy. I get a 2-ton epoxy from the hardware store. But I mean, it's a general pain in the butt, and if you know you can take better care of them and avoid doing that, it's probably for the best. But I admit I'm tough on my brushes. And I used to, as I said earlier, use all of my brushes for all of my mediums, which you should not do. So now though, realizing I'm really hard on my brushes, I do now have a set of just watercolor brushes. So these are and that's all these are for. And I have water brushes in here as well as your traditional watercolor brushes. Most of these I got on clearance. But yeah, I'm totally tough on my brushes. So I try to get them on sale. Oh yeah, see, I'm glad I'm not the only one. So this is cute, but it needs a pop. It needs a pop, a pop, a pop. I'm thinking a pop of turquoise, because why not? I'm with Patty Tolly Parrish on that. Who doesn't love some turquoise and purple? It's just yummy. And by the way, did you all get your stencil purchase in with Patty's new stencils and her 20% discount? I'm going to be doing a stencil purge, by the way, because I've never ever purged my stencils. I have store-bought and homemade ones, and I bet you I have duplicates. I've never gone through it, so that'll be upcoming. Not today. See, that's it. Just needed a pop. See, I like that. So we have 20 minutes left. What would you guys like to see me do? More doodles? I love these. You know, I started doing them because I saw an art journal page, I think on Pinterest, where they did a little bird or something on a book page. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. I've got all that book text in the studio. I should do something with it. They're so much fun. I got to tell you, they're addicting. You totally could leave your book text in its block like this and just flip the pages. I'm not going to do that. In fact, oh yeah, see, you did too? I did too. I probably bought too many stencils, but that's why I have to do a purge now. So when I have a book block like this one that is just going to be used for ripping up or watercoloring on, I don't worry too much about ungluing it like Shannon does. I just cut it apart. This is just a Easy Cut 2000. It's just a box cutter. And that reminds me, I put my spare blades away somewhere. They've been missing for like 2 months. I can't find them. I have a whole bunch of them. So I have to look for them this week. So that took the bulk of stuff off, but not all of it. Because I didn't plan to start doing these watercolor embellishment things, I didn't cut this book block apart. So if you're going to do this, you just have a loose stack of book pages around. You did, oh yay, you did another feather, the curve is better. Yay! And yeah, it's totally addictive, but it's also a fun, easy little craft thing that you can do. Craft thing, look at me. You know, art thing that you can do, and you can just, you know, save them for embellishments later. Share them with friends or whatever. Ooh, and I just thought of this just now. Yeah, it might turn into a Crazy Island family embellishment swap thing. Maybe not next month, but maybe. It would be a good swap, don't you all think? Shannon's way is probably easier, and you're less likely to cut your fingers off. I also like that she like loosens up the glue in the oven. Which, yeah, the last time I used my oven for craft things, I don't know if you guys know this, but some of you might. I was melting perler beads, and I had, because I have asthma, of course, I had all the doors and windows open, and it was a weekend, so my husband was home. He said to me, "That smells good, what are you cooking?" I said, melted plastic beads. Yeah, so I try not to melt things in the oven. Besides the fact that things make me wheeze. Yeah, we all have loads. And you know, I just ordered 2 more books, Catherine. Because, you know, I need more book ephemera, like I need a freaking hole in the head. But I couldn't help myself. The New York Times has these books where they have, you know, a whole bunch of, like, front pages from their newspaper going back from, like, 1939 or earlier. And the books are totally cheap on Amazon, and shipping is not horrible either. Like, the books in some cases are less than $1. You pay more for the shipping. And they're huge books. So I ordered a couple of those because, you know, yeah, I need them like a hole in the head. I don't know where I'm going to put them, but you all might be getting some pages from them in Happy Mail. Now I have a whole stack of pages. Yay. So yeah, I have to find my blades for this one and my other X-Acto knife because I put them away somewhere. I don't know where they're at. You know, typical of me, putting things away and not being able to find them. I do that all the time. All right. Let's do something else, shall we? Something easy. I don't want to scare you all away. Let's see. How about, you know, it's almost Valentine's Day. Why don't we do some more hearts? And these would be good to use on, like, Valentine's Day cards or things. Hearts are easy. Everybody can do a heart. Can't you do a heart? So, of course, you want to do sketchy. And then, you know, again, I like to write a word. Yeah, dictionary pages, old leather pages, not leather, ledger pages would be great too. So I'm going to write love in the heart. I'll do another one over here. And yes, I've inherited some books from friends who have passed away, or family members of friends, and, you know, really old books. And I'm a big book lover, so unless it's really falling apart, even if it's an antique and falling apart, I don't feel so bad about taking it apart, you know, using it for collage or whatever, or drawing on. If it's in good shape, I have a hard time with that. Now, if you're doing these little hearts and you are doing them for a Valentine card, instead of just writing love in the heart, you could write "Be Mine" or something like that. That would be cute. I also like to, and my grandmother would roll over in her grave if she knew, but I like to take old Bibles apart and use them. Yeah, I know. She was Roman Catholic, and she would, like, I would not be in a good place. She would be very upset with me if she knew. But the paper they're printed on is nice thin paper, and you know, I like to go look for my favorite passage and use that in an art journal page. So all my hearts so far have been more on the pink and, I know, big surprise, purpley side. So far, I know you're all surprised by that. So let's try to do some that are red this time. As you know, I just can't seem to stay away from the purple. This is color number, what is this? I have no idea, I need my glasses. Okay, let's see. 400 it looks like. And Roz, it's nice to have you here. Don't forget, if you're all members of Crazy Island family and you haven't signed up for the swap yet, to sign up for the next swap, which is the stamped image swap. I'm going to put some pink in the middle. There's still time to sign up for the swap until the 20th. This is more of a cadmium red, like an orangey red. But it'll keep me from going into the purples too much. These are cute. Cool. I haven't stamped any images yet because, you know, as per usual, I've got a lot of stuff going on at the same time, so it'll be a last minute thing for me. And as we're live right now, I'm getting instant messages from Anne and Cindy, my two helpers, about they're working on setting up your groups. They're very organized. Love them. And I see, Catherine, you put on there your mom loved purple. Yeah, I love purple. I love that. So we're almost at the end of our time here today, and it was very impromptu, but I hope you guys have had a good time. And I had those quick tips about that watercolor palette. I just couldn't wait, and I thought, you know, let me just pop on. If only a couple people are there, I'll share it with a couple people. I'll record it. We'll put it on YouTube later. But for those of you who weren't here in the beginning, so I'm going to be working on this week and getting this fixed up, this homemade watercolor Twinkling H2O palette. When I get it completed, I will post pictures of it on Facebook and everywhere. You know I will. I can't wait. This is going to be so cool when it's set up, and I have all of these Pearl X and other, I think some of them are another brand, pigment powder. They're just pigment powders. You know, I don't know. The writing is too little. I don't know. This is by Jacquard Products. I think this is Pearl-Ex. Yeah, this is definitely Pearl-Ex. It says Pearl-Ex on it. But you could use any pigment powder. If you have pigment powder, you can make them into homemade watercolor paints. The Frugal Crafter has a video on YouTube about that. She also uses dollar store sparkly eyeshadow. This is LA Colors, and this is actually the one that she uses. Yeah, Gum Arabic's hiding. It's hiding with some of my stuff that I can't find. Maybe my X-Acto knife blades. I'm always missing something, I'm telling you. You know, I didn't even find, if you guys all know, or maybe you don't know, I was working on a page for Journaling Crazy Island Style for February. I was going to use an Antique Valentine in the page, and I pulled one out of my ephemera stash and set it aside in a quote-unquote safe place. Then I lost it for almost 2 days, and I never did find it. My daughter came into my studio and said, "Oh, Mom," I ended up using something else because I couldn't find it. My daughter came into my studio and said, "Oh, Mom, this is really pretty. Where'd you get this from?" It was literally hanging like right there above my shelf, above my workstation, right in front of my face for like 2 days, and I couldn't find it. Like, really. So I lose things all the time, and I never used to lose anything, so it's something that I'm having trouble getting used to. It's just since I got hurt and was on, I think I was on too much medication. I think I was over-medicated. And it seems to be permanent, and the more stressed out I get, the worse it gets, so it's not good. I don't know how other people deal with it that have had it that way for a long time. I'm going to have to cut a bunch of these little squares. Good thing I have a lot of this tape. Not tape, Velcro. They've run off to Mexico with Shannon's stuff. Yeah, her corner, she never did find her corner rounder, did she? You know, we should figure out what she's missing and send her some happy mail. I think she said she was missing a corner rounder and something else. I actually think I might have a spare one. In my silverware drawer. Yeah, you know what? I've found my cell phone in the refrigerator because that's a good place for it. So, you know, I just, yeah, it's not getting worse, but it's definitely not getting better. And if I have a day where I'm really coughing and wheezing and I have to take allergy medicine, it's bad without the medicine now. I didn't ever have this problem before, but with the medicine, it's even worse. Her gator thingy. Gator thingy? I don't know what that is, Catherine. Gator thingy. You mean the hole punch, big hole punch thing? What is that called? Holy cow, I can't think. I don't know. I have one. I don't have a spare of those. I do think I have a spare corner rounder, though, because I think I have a few of them. Oh, crocodile. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The crocodile thing. The big hole punchy thing that does eyelets. She never has found them, has she? Yeah, we should, poor thing, we should get her some happy mail. That would drive me crazy. Well, that kind of thing does drive me crazy. The Big Bite. Yeah, that's the one I have. The big orange one. All right, I am going to go. I am going to have some lunch and get changed for work. I've got to go to Michael's and teach a seascape painting class tonight. I hope you all have enjoyed this impromptu little live session. And I will let you know when I have a proper scheduled one. And in the meantime, I'm going to be working on my new fabulous Twinkling H2O watercolor palette. I can't wait till it's done now. And to use them and do some doodles and things with them. It's going to be fabulous. Alright, I'll talk to you all later. Don't forget to go out and have a great week. Have a great day. And do something nice for yourself because you all deserve it. And I'll see you later. Bye.